What if the real secret behind Alexander the Great's power wasn't his army, but what he ate? What if it wasn't a shield? What if it wasn't even an army? What if it was something far more common, something you hold in your hands every single day? Imagine a world where battles are not won on the field alone, but at the dinner table, where the fate of an empire hinges not on strategy or steel, but on the simple contents of a bowl. This isn't a fantasy. It is the forgotten story of how food forged a conqueror, and how a specific diet became the silent, unseen engine of an entire empire. We often look to the grand gestures of history, but the real secrets are hidden in the quiet, daily rituals. We picture emperors feasting on lavish spreads. We see tables groaning under the weight of exotic dishes. We imagine endless wine. We imagine decadent desserts. But this is a comfortable illusion. The reality for the most dominant figures in history was starkly different. For them, food was not a luxury, it was a tool. It was a carefully calibrated instrument designed for one purpose: peak performance. Their diet was a testament to discipline, a rejection of excess, and a relentless pursuit of an edge that no enemy could see or understand. The right food could fuel a mind sharp enough to outwit any general. The right food could fuel a body tireless enough to outlast any army. This is the story of how a leader weaponized his plate. It is a journey into a diet so Spartan, so precise, that it would seem punishing to us today. Yet, this very austerity unlocked a level of physical endurance and mental clarity that powered one of the most astonishing military campaigns ever witnessed. We will strip away the myths of royal banquets and uncover the gritty truth of the war diet that built an empire. We will follow this leader from his pre-dawn training. We will follow him into his late-night councils, examining every meal, every ingredient, every sip of water. This investigation will show you that what you eat does more than just fill you up. It shapes your thoughts, it builds your discipline, and it can give you a quiet advantage in a noisy world. The world this leader was born into was not one of peace or stability. It was a crucible of constant conflict, a chaotic chessboard of shifting alliances, brutal betrayals. Empires rose and fell, not in centuries, but in decades. Survival was not guaranteed. It was earned daily through strength, cunning, and unyielding will to dominate. From a young age, he was immersed in this reality. He watched complacency lead to ruin. He watched luxury soften even the mightiest. This brutal environment was his first and most important teacher. Every element of life, including food, became a tool for victory or a path to defeat. There was no middle ground. His day did not begin with the sun. It began hours before it, in the cold, silent darkness of the pre-dawn. This was not a choice born of sleeplessness, but a deliberate act of discipline. While his rivals and even his own men slept, he was already in motion. The first order of business was always physical exertion. Grueling drills, weapons practice, long runs through the camp. This intense activity on an empty stomach served a dual purpose. It built physical endurance and forged an iron will before the first meal was even considered. Following this physical trial, his mind took center stage. The hours that followed were a blur of strategic councils, intelligence briefings, logistical planning. He would stand for hours over vast maps. Generals and advisors debating troop movements, supply lines, the enemy's likely next move. Life on a military campaign was life on the edge of scarcity. Supply lines were long and treacherous. Weather, terrain, enemy raids. A commander was not just a general. He was the quartermaster-in-chief, obsessed with the logistics of grain, water, livestock. The available foods were, by necessity, simple, durable, and energy-dense. The staples were grains, wheat, barley, spelt. That could be carried for months without spoiling. These were the bedrock of the military diet, often consumed as a coarse bread, a thick porridge called pools, or simply as boiled kernels. The leader himself embraced this. By publicly partaking in the same simple rations as his men, he transformed a condition of scarcity into a statement of solidarity. He demonstrated that true strength wasn't found in abundance, but in the mastery of want. Even when he was away from the front lines, back in the relative comfort of a city or a more permanent fortress, the leader's approach to food remained starkly austere. This is where the true secret lies. For him, the Spartan diet was not just a necessity of the campaign trail, it became a deliberate choice, a core pillar of his personal philosophy. His private meals were shockingly simple, often mirroring the rations of his soldiers, even when a chef's entire kitchen was at his disposal. A typical meal might consist of simple vegetable broths, a piece of grilled fish, lean meat, and a small portion of bread. He was known to favor fruits and vegetables that were local and in season, not for their gourmet quality, but for their freshness and vitality. His table was a reflection of his mind, uncluttered, efficient, and purposeful. This austerity was a form of training. Every simple meal was an act of self-discipline, a quiet reaffirmation of his control over his own appetites. The leader's day began not with a feast, but with a deliberate, calculated act of restraint. His first meal was remarkably light, designed to awaken body and mind, not induce lethargy. Small portion of coarse barley bread, bread dipped in water, bread dipped in olive oil, occasionally a handful of figs, occasionally dates. Focus on simple, slow-digesting carbohydrates, steady release of glucose, no insulin spike, no crash. A masterclass in functional nutrition. Barley from whole, unprocessed grains, rich in fiber. Fiber slowed digestion. Energy released gradually over hours. Stable fuel for morning strategic councils. The midday meal was the primary fuel source for the day's physical exertions. The cornerstone was almost always a thick porridge or stew, known as pulse. This was a hearty blend of boiled grains like spelt, wheat, barley, mixed with lentils, chickpeas. The genius of this meal lay in its composition. The combination of whole grains and legumes created a complete protein, providing all the essential amino acids necessary for muscle maintenance and repair. The final meal of the day followed a different principle. Not energy for performance, but resources for repair and recovery. The evening ration was the lightest of the three, a strategic choice to optimize nighttime cellular repair and memory consolidation. Water was as critical as grain. An army could survive weeks without food, but only days without water. He obsessed over logistics, especially water sources. But his personal approach was even more precise. He drank steadily all day, measured sips from a personal flask. That kept blood volume and circulation optimal, so oxygen and nutrients reached brain and muscles. It also helped regulate body temperature during long marches under a scorching sun. He also used wine, functionally. Almost always diluted, 1 part wine to 3 or more parts water. Firstly, the alcohol acted as a mild antiseptic, reducing dysentery and waterborne illness. It was a primitive but effective purification. Diluted wine also gave calories and electrolytes, and served as a morale-boosting ritual. The leader's diet was a masterfully constructed system for conquering fatigue. The primary fuel, slow-digesting carbohydrates, whole grains, barley, spelt. Those grains provided a steady, drip feed of glucose into the bloodstream. This prevented the energy roller coaster, rapid highs and deep crashes from simple sugars. The carbohydrate strategy was supported by healthy fats, olive oil, occasional fatty fish. Carbohydrates give fast-acting energy. Fats are denser, longer-burning fuel. Adapting his body to use both fuels, metabolic flexibility, created 2 energy tanks. During low-intensity activity, he burned fat and conserved glycogen. For high-intensity bursts, he tapped glycogen for rapid power. The diet was also inherently anti-inflammatory, rich in antioxidants from vegetables, fruits, olive oil, low in inflammatory triggers, sugar, refined grains, excessive red meat. By keeping inflammation in check, his body recovered faster and more completely each night. He wasn't just fueling performance, he was accelerating repair and starting each day closer to 100% than his adversaries. The true theater of war for a commander is the 3-pound universe inside his skull. The leader's diet was perhaps most impactful here, engineered to create a brain that was calm, focused, ruthlessly decisive under pressure. The avoidance of sugar and refined carbohydrates was the first line of defense for his cognitive function. Large swings in blood sugar are devastating for the brain, leading to periods of hyperactivity followed by mental fog, irritability, and poor judgment. By maintaining stable blood glucose levels through his diet of complex carbs, fiber, protein, he ensured his brain received a consistent, reliable supply of its primary fuel, allowing for unwavering concentration during long strategic sessions. The diet was also rich in specific nutrients now known to be critical for brain health. The omega-3 fatty acids found in fish, found in certain plants, are essential components of brain cell membranes, facilitating communication between neurons. The B vitamins present in the whole grains and legumes he consumed are vital for the production of neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers like dopamine, serotonin that regulate focus, mood, motivation. This dietary strategy also had a profound effect on his stress response. By keeping his internal chemistry balanced, he was better able to manage the immense psychological stress of command. While others might become emotionally reactive, impulsive, or paralyzed by anxiety, he was known for his almost unnerving calm in the face of chaos. The leader's Spartan diet was more than just a biological strategy. It was a psychological training ground, a daily ritual for forging an unbreakable will. Every meal was an exercise in self-control. By consciously choosing the simple, functional ration over the tempting, luxurious alternative, he was casting a vote for discipline over desire. This was not a one-time decision, but a constant, quiet battle waged 3 times a day. This daily practice of saying no to his own base impulses built a reservoir of willpower that was staggering. It created a mindset where personal comfort was irrelevant and the mission was everything. This discipline radiated outwards, becoming a palpable force that his men could see and feel. But a leader who eats the same hard bread and simple stew as his lowest-ranking soldier demonstrates an entirely different kind of authority. It is an authority born not from rank or title, but from moral and personal strength. His soldiers knew they were following a man who demanded no more of them than he demanded of himself. When facing rivals who were accustomed to indulgence, he was operating from a different plane of existence. His needs were simpler, his focus purer. He could endure hardships that would mentally shatter his opponents. In the world of emperors and kings, power was traditionally displayed through extravagance. Grand banquets, exotic foods, rivers of expensive wine. It was a way of saying, "I have so much, I can afford to waste it." The leader understood this language perfectly. He chose to speak its opposite. His radical simplicity was not an absence of power. It was a more profound and intimidating statement of it. This deliberate austerity was political theater, and he was its master actor. When he sat with his soldiers and shared their meager rations, it was a calculated performance of solidarity. It dissolved hierarchy and forged a bond of shared experience. They fought for a brother in arms, a commander who bled and hungered alongside them. This created fanatical loyalty. The ritual also positioned him as morally superior. It cast enemies with lavish lifestyles and decadent feasts as soft, corrupt, and out of touch. The disciplined, virtuous warrior, the bloated, indulgent aristocrat. This message resonated beyond the army with conquered populations. He presented himself as a liberator, not a plunderer. He defeated them in public opinion before the first sword was drawn. And now we come to the hidden truth, the open loop we promised to close. It is a secret buried within his routine, a practice so counterintuitive it seems like a weakness. The leader did not just eat simple foods, He frequently and deliberately practiced fasting. He would often skip the morning meal entirely, or sometimes go for longer periods with nothing but water. But for him, this was not deprivation. It was the sharpening of his most lethal weapon, his mind. This is the unexpected insight. He weaponized hunger. On a biological level, which modern science is only now fully understanding, intermittent fasting triggered a cascade of effects in his body. After 12 to 16 hours without food, the body switches its primary fuel source from glucose to ketones, derived from breaking down body fat. This metabolic state, ketosis, profoundly impacts the brain. Ketones are a cleaner fuel and a more efficient fuel for the brain than glucose, leading to enhanced cognitive function, reduced mental fog, and heightened focus. Fasting dramatically increases production of a powerful protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. It's been described as Miracle-Gro for the brain, stimulating growth of new neurons and strengthening existing ones. The mild stress of hunger, when controlled, triggers cellular cleanup and optimization, a process called autophagy. His body cleared out damaged cells, recycled components, reduced inflammation, and increased resilience to disease. He was not weakening himself. He was making himself biologically younger, stronger, and mentally sharper. This practice also gave him an incredible psychological advantage. By mastering his own hunger, the most primal human drive, he achieved near superhuman self-mastery. This is the hidden truth. His greatest psychological weapon wasn't his army or his strategy, but the quiet, controlled emptiness in his own stomach. The leader's practice of fasting, eating simple rations, sharpened his mind and body. It unlocked one final advantage: genuine empathy. In ancient warfare, the gulf between commander and soldiers was immense. He chose to share the hardship of his men by knowing the gnawing feeling of a truly empty stomach. The leader bridged that gulf. He didn't just sympathize, he understood on a visceral level. Not manipulation, a shared human experience. That empathy transformed his leadership. Decisions about forced marches, ration cuts, risky maneuvers, he didn't calculate abstract numbers. He felt the potential cost in his own body. He gained an intuitive sense of morale and the breaking point. He knew when to push harder and when to pull back. That intuition prevented blunders and saved thousands of lives. This empathy was a weapon enemies couldn't match. His army fought with fierce protective loyalty for a commander who felt their pain. He could inspire the impossible because he never asked what he hadn't endured. It forged an unbreakable psychological and emotional connection. It turned individuals into a cohesive organism with him as heart and mind. He built an empire by standing with his men, sharing their bowl, feeling their hunger. We began this journey with a question. What if the greatest weapon in history was not a sword, but something far more common? We have traveled back in time, stripping away the myths of lavish banquets to uncover a forgotten truth. We discovered a leader who did not feast his way to victory, but disciplined his way to dominance. His power was not forged in the fires of a smithy, but in the quiet, controlled heat of his own cooking pot. The war diet that built an empire was a testament to a radical idea. That true control over the world begins with absolute control over the self. And that control is mastered every single day at the table. It is a legacy written not in stone monuments, but in the simple biology of human potential. The principles of his diet were stark in their simplicity, yet profound in their impact. He chose slow-burning fuel over quick, empty pleasure. He prioritized anti-inflammatory foods, nutrient-dense foods that accelerated recovery and fortified his body against the rigors of his world. And then, there was the hidden truth, the masterstroke of his entire philosophy, the weaponization of hunger. By embracing deliberate periodic fasting, he unlocked a state of heightened mental clarity and cellular regeneration. He turned a primal fear into his greatest source of cognitive power, proving that sometimes the most profound strength is found not in what you consume, but in what you refuse. This story is a powerful reminder that the most significant advantages are often the ones that are unseen. While history focuses on the clash of armies and the brilliance of battlefield tactics, the real war was often won long before, in the quiet, consistent discipline of daily life. The leader's diet was his silent, invisible edge. It built his body, sharpened his mind, fortified his will, and connected him to his men. The empire he built eventually crumbled, as all empires do. But the legacy of his Spartan plate, the knowledge of how to turn food into power, is timeless. It was a holistic system for human optimization, hidden in plain sight. The world has changed. We are no longer leading legions across continents, or fighting for survival on the campaign trail. Yet, we are all engaged in our own battles. We fight for focus in a world of endless distraction. We struggle for energy in lives that demand more from us than ever before. We seek an edge in our careers. We seek an edge in our health. We seek an edge in our personal growth. The story of this ancient leader is not just a fascinating piece of history. It is a blueprint. It is a testament that you hold a powerful tool for shaping your own reality. You hold it 3 times a day. The principles of the war diet are as relevant now as they were 2,000 years ago. You can start to apply this ancient wisdom today in small, simple steps. You don't need to eat coarse barley bread. You don't need to live on a campaign. Instead, start by asking a simple question of your next meal. Is this for fuel, or is it just for fleeting pleasure? Choose one meal and make it purely functional. Perhaps it's a simple breakfast of oats, instead of a sugary pastry. This provides the same slow-release energy that fueled a conqueror's morning. Notice how you feel. Notice the absence of a crash. Notice the presence of sustained focus. This is the first step, reclaiming control. Consider the hidden truth, the power of restraint. Experiment by extending the time between your last meal and your first of the next day. Push your breakfast back by an hour or 2. That can introduce the state of mental clarity the leader weaponized. Discover that a little controlled hunger can make you sharper, not weaker. Your food is not just sustenance, it is information. It tells your body how to perform. It tells your brain how to think. It tells your will how to endure. By becoming conscious of what is on your plate, you gain a silent advantage in a noisy world. You can build your resilience. You can sharpen your mind. You can forge your legacy. The war diet that built an empire shows that the ultimate weapon is disciplined self-control, and it begins with your very next bite.